Hi Freelancer, welcome to today's episode of the Freelance Blueprint. I'm your host Lisi, a freelance UX designer and digital nomad, and today we're joined by fellow UX designer Nikoleta. She uses no-code tools like Webflow to create websites for her clients, and she's also one of the two hosts of the Work in Progress podcast. She also runs a newsletter, which is such a lovely read, and she also created a work life for herself that prioritizes her needs. Today we're talking about what it's like to launch your own podcast, how lessons and insights from Christo, Simon Sinek, and Annelie Hansen helped us along our journey. We also talk about the importance of having a community of peers and all the things we wish we knew earlier. So let's dive in. Hi, Nikoleta. Thanks for joining today.
Hi, Elizabeth, Lisi. Thank you for inviting me. This is my first interview, and I'm quite excited that you're the first one.
I'm so happy. I always like it when I'm kind of taking the podcast virginity of people, which for you isn't really true because you have your own podcast, but you're just the first time on the guest side, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Nice. Cool. So where are you calling from?
Right now, and usually, I'm from Bulgaria, but currently I'm located in Zagreb, Croatia, and I chose it as a home like 7 years ago almost.
Wow. What made you move there?
Well, first it was just for university purposes, like to do an Erasmus project, to travel a bit, to learn something new. But then I was like, I really like how it's mixed between East and West. And here they have like a saying, which means like, not a saying, but maybe a phrase like polako, like go easy kind of thing. And it kind of resonated with me. And I was like, let me give this a go and maybe try to find work here. And I was like, I really like it. And I basically chose it as my current home. So, yeah.
Nice. Cool. So just to start the podcast, I like to ask people if I wouldn't know anything about you, but I don't know, I would go to the supermarket and I bump into your best friend. How would he or she describe you to me?
Well, it depends which best friend you ask, because with each people that are forming us as personalities, you have different types of how to say relationships, and you show different side of yourself. If you ask my Indian friend, he will say, "Oh my God, she's very organized. She plans for everything. She plans hangouts. She's on top of her schedule." If you ask my other friend from Zimbabwe, she would say, "Oh my God, she's so energetic. She is always so consistent, always shows up. You can always count on her." If you ask my Croatian friend, she would say like, "She's so fun. I love to dance with her. Can't wait to go on another, I don't know, Afrobeats or reggaeton party with her." So it really depends who you ask.
Sounds like you have a very international pool of friends. How did you meet all of them?
Well, most of my friends I meet online or either through events and experiences that I go on. For example, some of my friends are either I found them through Erasmus program here in Croatia, and we stayed long-term friends. Other I met through Bumble, like for BFFs. And since the dating didn't turn out as great, I found lots of female friends. And yeah, basically just putting yourself out there and going on different events actually works to find friends more than actual partners. So that's how I meet them.
Cool. So you're a UX designer, but you also create websites on Webflow. How did you get started with everything?
I do websites and like web design in particular, like for the past 6.5 years probably. But it all started with Wix and creating websites for university projects and friends and family. And back then we were supposed to learn how to create websites from ground up, like from CSS, HTML, JavaScript, and whatnot. And in the university years, I realized that I really don't like front end that much, and I really gravitated towards making the websites with no code. And then I found out about UX and no code development, and I was like, oh my God, if I can marry these two, that will be perfect, because I really like breaking things apart and seeing what is inside and how it works. Hence, I really like to go behind the aesthetics and see what is under the hood, and also the logic from UX, and having everything like a big picture and breaking it down really gives me a lot of pleasure, putting things from chaos to order. And I was like, I think these two can really go together. And then I decided this will be my niche, creating websites with user experience. And I think I think that's my ikigai.
Nice. What does your day-to-day look like?
My day to day, you would think that it's very, how to say, diverse, but most of the time it's very routine based. I have like a morning routine, then I do either podcast recording or some discovery calls, then I create content. Maybe midday, I meet some friends or go on some kind of event that is happening in Zagreb because as a metropolitan city, it has lots of things going on. So sometimes I go like for a lunch break somewhere, I don't know, an like exhibition or something. And then I come back home and then I'm like, okay, the sun is down. I like emptied my batteries. Now I can actually sit down and work on something that doesn't require so much like energy. And yeah, that's basically the day.
Nice. Sounds very nice, productive. Like, where do you put your me time in there? Because you go out and you come back and you're working again.
Me time in terms like self-care or
Yeah. Like, how do you relax?
how do I relax? My morning routine is my me time, and
Ah,
I really felt guilty in the beginning when I was taking this 1 hour, maybe 2 hours for myself. But then I was like, no, this is really good because when I sit down and I read books either for UX or for romance or anything that I like, it's time when I'm like just wandering around in my mind, writing, journaling, thinking about ideas, about content, or I get these inspirations of, oh, I should reach out to this person or that friend and maybe organize something to happen like in the next few weeks. So this morning routine is my me time. And I would say late afternoons and nights when I don't have work, but I have like, for example, something going on in the city, or a friend invites me over to do something together, or I want to watch some K drama because during the winter season I have lots of introverted, how to say,
routines?
activities, you
Mm.
can say, yeah. Routines, yeah. But during the summer, I'm all outside. Like, if you ask me in the summer, I would be on the lake, like somewhere around the lake, having coffee with me, maybe packed some lunch in a bento box, my book, and something to do during these 3-4 hours in the afternoon.
Nice. I actually quite like that you put your me time at the
Mhm.
beginning of the day. So you do what you want for yourself first. And that's also the thing that many people ask me how I manage my work working from different time zones. And most of my time, I'm somewhere
Mm-hmm.
in Asia or somewhere that's kind of ahead of European time zones where my clients are based. And I really enjoyed it because in the
Mm-hmm.
morning, I do what I want, what I feel like. And then I know,
Yeah.
okay, I've covered myself, I've covered my needs. Now I'm going to go to work. And I also think it automatically makes you more productive because you don't have this thing at the back of your mind that you still have to do this or this other thing, or you don't feel like you wasted a day because you've just been working.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, I think it's a good thing that you put yourself first and start with that routine. And people that feel guilty about it, they shouldn't feel guilty. Like you have to look after yourself to be able to do anything else. So, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, and I don't know about you and how spiritual you are, but they always say like the morning is the best time for you to like tune your radio, to like adjust your mindset, to dream a bit, maybe do some affirmations, meditate if you can, if you is possible for you, maybe even stretch a bit. And I really do feel the difference when I focus on myself in the morning and I don't straight up start working or answering messages and stuff like that. These 2 quiet hours really help me get into my head and be like, okay, today I'm programming myself to think about this and that, and I will focus on this rather than that. And I think it's really, really good. And I did one of these exercises from Chris Do. He has this workbooks, part of his materials on the website, and one of them was about timesheet and to see how you spend your time as a freelancer. So I was like, before I even started freelancing, I decided to do that exercise, and I was like, okay, let me check where my time goes. How do I spend my days, and what do I do on a daily basis? And then I did different colors and different times of the day to see how much I really work, how much I spend for myself, like me time, how much just play, like do silly things or do nothing, and then how much I invest into creating something new as an output, as content, or I don't know, just having a normal conversation, networking or whatever. So I, in the beginning, when I always talk with freelancers, I always suggest them look into your schedule and routine, find out what you do and where you spend your time.
I think it's a very interesting exercise to do, because we always say we don't have time, we can't do this, it doesn't fit in our schedule. And if you actually do this exercise, and I've also done it for like a week or so, it's like, oh my God, I spent so much time replying to messages or like text messages where it's like, I could just call someone. The doom scroll, that where we all think it's 5 minutes, but then, that's things like that, like don't open your phone first thing in the morning, and all these kind of things. And also the
Yeah.
other thing you said about tuning the radio, I heard,
Yeah.
I forgot what it was called, but basically you can train your brain into what to focus on. And I think that's basically what you said with the radio. I think Simon Sinek said that in some video somewhere, where when you ski and you ski in the mountains, you have all these trees. The reason the skiers don't drive straight into the trees is because they concentrate on the path. All they see is, I can go here, I can go there. But if you're prone into the errors, it's like, oh, there's a tree I could hit, there's a tree I could hit, you will hit the tree. And if you focus in the morning on gratitude, like first thing you wake up and you say, today I'm grateful for, I don't know, that it's warm, that I'm not freezing, or
Yes.
I'm grateful that my family sits upstairs, things like that. You automatically focus your brain to concentrate on the good stuff, and you will have a better day after. So I think it's a really good exercise. And also the thing that you mentioned about the Christo thing, how much time you spend. Is there anything that surprised you of where you spent your time?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, it was a lot of time like scattered, like it was not blocked in chunks. And since I finished the Atomic Habits, I also really worked on my habits and how I connect them to my physical locations. So I was like, okay, I really like to read, but I really don't have a time specific frame where I sit and actually read. So that's why I'm so behind with my books. So I was like, okay, I feel very tired after my lunch. Can I combine those the two and actually have a productive after lunchtime? So it's like 1 hour for lunch just to prepare it and eat it, and then I'll have another 1 hour or 30 minutes for a quick walk and then reading in the sun. So this 2 hour block time will be for me, and then everything around it will be productive. And then I started to use my Google Calendar on Max, and I was like, this color coordination that it was in the worksheet, I basically transferred it into the Google Calendar, and I was like, okay, now I see what's happening.
I tried time blocking and all these different tools where you kind of focus, like this is how you concentrate, this is how you get everything done. And I noticed for me, the main thing that works. So one is basically just reminding myself why I'm doing what I'm doing. And the other thing is planning in the evening for the day ahead. Because I notice
Yes.
even if I think, okay, on Thursday I have to do this like for example, this week I have to send the recordings for the invites for the podcast, but it's like, I don't want to send it 10 days in advance. I'm just going to send it 1 or 2 days before, because then it's also more fresh in mind for the person I'm interviewing. So I set myself a reminder on Thursday for the people that I'm interviewing on Monday, but then it's already too much. So what helps me is really just concentrate on the next 24 hours. So before I go to bed, it's like, this is what I need to do today, tomorrow. And then I try to put a task in my Google Calendar. So it's not really time blocking, but it is within a certain time.
Yeah.
And I try to tick it off by then. So far, that's the only thing that's worked for me. But yeah, just the time blocking doesn't work for me. But I'm glad to hear that it works for you.
Well, I time block only for things that I know it will happen anyway. So if it's there, I can easily manage everything around. So for example, the routine is time blocked, the lunch is time blocked, and for example, posting, like the best times to post, I also put it there. So just to remind myself that I should post from time to time because I'm really bad with the social media. Like I am consistent, but I scattered consistent. I don't have like a system or anything. I just post whenever I have an idea. So this is also in the calendar. Another thing in the calendar as a time block would be a meeting, like you said, or something just one day ahead, nothing too much. And also, maybe I do double the work, but when I journal, I also think about the other day what task I should focus on the next day. And then if I really have the time, I would put it in the calendar as an actual task. If I don't have the time, I will just transfer it to the next day. So yeah, basically that 24-hour planning for freelancers, I think it only makes sense because you never know what else will pop out in the calendar in the next 24 hours. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But actually, I have to disagree with you that you're bad with social media because I think your content is quite interesting. It's nice to see your day to day. You also have a newsletter, you have a podcast, and you manage all of that yourself, right? So I wouldn't say you're bad at it at all.
Yes.
And I noticed this pattern with so many freelancers.
I'm just trying.
Yeah, I mean, you're not just trying, you're doing it. You're doing your best. And I think you're doing quite well.
Okay.
And yeah. Yeah, and I
Thank
noticed this
you.
pattern with
Thank
so
you.
many freelancers that are doing so many things and they don't even realize all the stuff they're doing until someone else points it out to them. It's like, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this. So what else do you want, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think because during the COVID, I believe everything, like social media wise, the bar raised quite a bit. Like you have movie awarding kind of reels, cinematic reels in the Instagram, and people make reels almost like movies nowadays. And when you do something, I don't know, simple or just one cut, no flashy effects and stuff like that, and you almost, of course, you shouldn't compare your style to other people's styles, but it almost feels like you're not doing enough or it's not entertaining or valuable as other people's. Especially in the design community, there's always someone who is doing better than you. So it's hard to think that whatever you do, it's good enough. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like, yeah, I'm doing it, but is it as good?
But you just answered it for yourself. We shouldn't compare ourselves to others. It's not just the design industry, it's other industries as well. But I guess with design, it's even more so because it's very visual. So some people might concentrate a lot on the look compared to if you would be in, I can't think of any other industry, but if you're a web developer, it doesn't have to look as
Yeah.
good as if you're a designer because then you also feel judged on the look of it. And like when I started building my online brand, etc., and I was talking with friends like, what if I don't care if strangers find my content? I don't care about that. Fine, But if anyone I know personally would find my content, I would melt into the floor. Or even worse, if it's one of my previous
Really?
clients. Yeah, I'd be like, I don't want like the people I went to school with to see my Instagram reels or So that's why I set up a separate account for it, which in hindsight, I'm not sure if I would have done the same because I travel so much, I had like a couple hundred followers, but then with Instagram starting from zero is hard. So basically, when I told one of my friends who has some following on Instagram and that I wanted to do it, she was saying, don't compare yourself to others. Like if you go to Christo's account and scroll back all the way to the very beginning, his content wasn't the quality it is now. He's just done so much content and he improved over time. It's not just who you're comparing yourself to, but it's also what stage are you comparing yourself to. It's like, would you compare the work of a junior designer with someone who has worked at Apple since the very beginning? Probably not. But we tend to do that because all of those things are available to us. And we don't see that actually we're not at the junior designer level anymore. We're not at that senior Apple designer either, but we're somewhere in the middle. But we always look up, we never look down. And if you would look down, you would also see like how far you actually come. So I think you're creating good content.
Thank you. But if we think about the psychology of what you said and what I said, it's interesting to see that what I gathered is that you care more about people that are in your past or people that you no longer maybe communicate with about what kind of impression you make on them. And for me, it's the quite opposite. I don't really care about my people in the past, what they think about me and where I have come and what I do, because I'm not ashamed of it. I'm quite proud of what I do. I'm more concerned about meeting new people and seeing the new version of me and how they perceive my content. So I really maybe competing with my own best version, I think. And I know that if I put the effort that I probably would if I had, I don't know, maybe more time, again, more time to just create content and nothing else, I think I would be like, yeah, maybe I can get as good as these, famous content creators. But then again, I'm like, we all have 24 hours. I guess they just figured it out for themselves how to do it in that way during the journey and creating consistently. So yeah, you're right. And I think this kind of reminders on social media from you as a genuine creator is really helpful when I see online that just like a reminder, okay, don't compare yourself to others, focus on your thing, you're doing okay. So yeah, I agree. I should just remind myself.
Yeah.
Same goes
It's
for you.
actually quite interesting what you said, that I care more about the people who met me and you care about the people who will meet you. But for me, I think it's because they know a
Mm,
past version of myself. I'm not that person anymore that,
exactly.
like, my sister would still say I have this camera face, and sometimes I still have it. Like, we were traveling together the last few days, and she would be my content creator. She would film me, and she's like, Lizzie, can you look
Yeah.
candid for once? Like, you're always giggling, you're always this. And it's like, it's so much better than in the past. In the past, I wouldn't even want to be alone in a video,
Mm,
you know? So it's, for me, that's
mm,
huge progress. But for my sister, it's still like, just sit still for once, you know? But at least I'm not making this
yeah.
photo face that I used to do. And actually, the
Mm-hmm.
fear that someone would find my content did happen. And it was one of my previous clients. And I absolutely loved working with her. She was such a good project manager. Like, she messaged me on my Instagram account and she asked me, could you help me build an online brand? I want to do what you're doing. And I'm like, oh my God, one of my clients, my UX clients, has found my freelance stuff. You know, that's why I don't post the stuff on LinkedIn, because I'm scared that my clients find
Mm,
me on Instagram. And then they do. And actually, it wasn't that bad. So the stuff we're scared of isn't actually that bad. And I actually think that people that meet you now and they will meet your content and come across it,
mm,
they are probably going to be as proud about it as you are. It's like, oh, I met this girl and she has a podcast and she does this and she does that. So I'm surprised that you're more
yeah.
scared of the people you're meeting than the people in the past. That's interesting.
Yeah, because everybody has different expectations, especially when they attach the content to numbers. And I'm really trying not to focus on the numbers. I really try to forget how many followers I have and whatever, because when they see the number, they're like attaching certain expectations to the account as well, and they're expecting some kind of, I don't know. How is it called? It's not only content creation, but there's some kind of level and some kind of responsibility as a creator, which I'm like, chill, chill. We're all here doing the same thing. So I don't really want it to become like a job kind of thing, another responsibility. I just want to keep it fun, and that's why it's like, where is the balance? To have fun with content, but also to make it educational and also to meet my expectations and maybe some of the people that are finding it useful.
Yeah, I think you're doing a good job with it. It is very playful and you have a very friendly, very, like, it has this. I think it's good that it's not so perfect because it's more relatable. And actually, I was talking with a friend. So I'm currently here with friends and they're YouTubers. They borrowed me that light and stuff. But basically, we were talking about content creators going to hotels and traveling and things like that. And how some of them get free accommodation in luxury hotels for offering content. And I went to this yoga retreat, and the owner was saying that he gets so many messages every day that there are people who want to go to the retreat for free for content. And he said, we're fully booked. We don't really need it. But also, the kind of content they're creating is this high-end luxury content, like slow motion and drone shots and everything. And he said, we're a family-run business. This doesn't work for us. We need someone authentic. You will find someone for your abilities. You just need to find the right client for the right project. Not everyone wants this high-quality content.
Exactly.
Coming back to the freelance content, like freelance topic, did you always know you wanted to be a freelancer?
Always wanted and knew that I wanted to be free. Let's put it like that. My mom would describe me still until this day as a very stubborn goat. And I really knew that I want things on my terms, and I really want to be working and like communicating and just being surrounded by people who are having win-win mindset, people who are like more like flexible in their communication. I wanted to really create something almost like, I don't know, like in a video game. We together are the characters, and we are just building this world together, and we are doing it shoulder to shoulder, like ramo to ramo, basically. And we are doing it together, and there is no competition. We are not rivals, and I really like this concept. And when I found out about freelancing and reading more about the freelance world and how things function, I just realized that also tasting the corporate world and how working for a small family business is also not my thing. Also, being the middle child, I really have the need to be valued and recognized and heard. So this also made it easier for me to choose something where I'm just me and nobody else, no comparison, and it's just me and my work, and what I do is really valuable, and you can see it there. It's there. So I think I just always knew that I wanted to be free in terms of working and doing my own thing.
That's a nice goal. Do you have anyone in your family or when you grew up who ran their own business or was freelancing?
Unfortunately, no. My background, I don't know if you can tell or not, but I'm coming from a very poor family, and we never had the means to create our own business or to run our own business. My mom is a single mom. I have two more half siblings, and she was always working, and she was most of the time she was away working either in a foreign country or in the nearby city. So we raised each other. Like my older brother tried to raise me, I tried to raise my younger brother. So I would say there was nothing related to business, but we always tried to meet ends and work multiple jobs and be on the jobs with my mom when she was around. So I would have a taste with really hard labor, like in terms of physical work. And I would really learn from the older people in my surroundings, being the neighbors, my mom, my family, her friends, or whatever. So I did things like cleaning bamboo with my bare hands as a kid. I did like hat knitting on a machine. I did costume design with her sometimes. We did lots of gardening. Cleaning houses was one of her main gigs. So also my OCD probably gets from there. Like I want everything to be clean, and I know how to start a project when it comes to cleaning. Like we start from the top, we put every spider web down, and then the dust and whatever. So I have that kind of skill from her. And yeah, that showed me that you can earn a lot of money with working with your hands and helping people with your time and physical efforts. But it doesn't have to be this way. And I really learned English because she was working for English households. Expats tried to move to our village, and they were coming on waves. And our village became very popular for being really good environment for English expats. And then I started learning English while we were doing the work on the house. And I realized that through communication and talking to people, I could achieve much more, like build relationships, find better opportunities like translation, interpretation for older people, because they didn't know how to change their license or how to apply for certain documents. And me, the little Bulgarian girl who speaks English, could help them, and they would buy me a lunch or I don't know, get me to the beach with them for a full weekend or something like that. And it was just like a really nice transition to, of course, doing all the work, physical work, but then figuring out that my ability to speak and communicate and how to say articulate myself helped me to get to the other side of the world, where it's like if you know how to speak and connect with people, you can actually do much more. So yeah.
Wow, I had no idea about this. No, it's super interesting that that's your upbringing, because I think many of us come from a very privileged background, and there's so many things
Mm.
that we take for granted. And the more you travel and the more you talk to people, you sometimes don't notice how lucky some of us are compared to others. Like, I grew up in Austria. I went to an Austrian school. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. Like, my dad was working, my
Mhm.
mom was at home, and my dad worked in a casino, so he worked at night, but therefore he could also join when my sister and I had some theater stuff at school where other dads wouldn't come, you know? So we had this massive privilege, but also at the same time, we were not extremely rich. We had everything we needed, but it wasn't that we had like the fanciest phone or like the nice branded clothes, but we had everything we needed. We could also join on the school trips and stuff. And if I just compare where I am compared to my cousins in Thailand, for example, it's such a
Mhm.
different life, simply because I grew up in a country where you learn English from when you're 10 years old. We just have a good education system. We have so many opportunities. Then the fact that I speak English and German and a little bit of Thai, you know, just I can communicate, I can go abroad, I understand the Asian lifestyle, I understand the etiquette there, you know. It's this kind of thing
Mhm.
that if I didn't have that background, like my 6-year-old cousin at the time, I remember we stayed in Bangkok and we were in this hotel and there was a bathtub, but it was like a meter wide bathtub. And my sister and I were joking, like, this isn't really a bathtub, this is just a big sink, you know, like very privileged girls, you know. And then my cousin,
Mm.
who was the first time in his life in a big city, my mom comes from a small rice field farm family, so it was his first time in the city, and he was there, and he was just about the size to fit this little bathtub. And he had so much joy in his face, you know, this big sink, how my sister and I would call it, was for
Mhm.
him like, wow, this is amazing, you know, and it just puts in perspective what we have.
Yep.
And I think it's a good reminder. So, and the fact that you had this upbringing, it taught you a lot. So now when you get a good salary, when you get a good rate, when you get this nice gig, and you realize, hey, I can spend 2-3 days in the morning reading my book. I can have a long lunch break to go for a walk. These are things that you created for yourself because you didn't want to live that life that you had as a child again. So,
Exactly.
yeah, good on you that you broke out of it.
Yeah, and also for the first question you asked, how would my friends describe me? Some of them also throw the word wise, and I think wise comes from the fact that I was exposed to having so many older people being my friends, like in trying to help me and learning from them and their lifestyle. And I think surrounding yourself with older people can really change your age, like intellectually. Like you can really see the world in a different lens if you hang out with also not only older people but people from other countries. My dream is always to travel, right? But not only physically getting the backpack and going somewhere, but also internationally in terms of conversation. When I meet people, I really like to get to know them and know their world, because it's almost like traveling but just mental wise.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting as well, because especially when you're in this digital nomad world and people ask you where you're from, everyone kind of struggles to answer it, because, like, yes, I'm from Austria. I spent
Yeah.
25 years of my life there, but I'm not feeling like
Yeah.
I do feel Austrian in a way, but because I travel so much, I lived in London most of my adult life, and then I've been traveling for 2-3 years now. It's like I'm not home in Austria more than like once a year. So I don't really know what's going on there. I don't know what the current political, like the big stuff I
Same.
know, but I don't know the details. So it feels weird to say I'm from Austria
Mm.
because it doesn't tell anything about you. For you as well, I guess it's similar. You moved to Croatia, you created a new home in a foreign country. When someone would ask you, where are you from? Do you feel more like you want to say you're from Croatia? Do you want to say you're from Bulgaria? Or like, what's the situation for you?
Yeah, it is really, how to say, almost an identity crisis happens when they ask you where you're from. Because, like you said, I haven't been to Bulgaria since 2020, so I don't know what's going on over there. I rarely speak with my Bulgarian friends because they don't travel that much and we don't see each other. But yeah, when they ask me, I say I'm originally from Bulgaria, but I'm currently living in Croatia. So I don't dismiss either aspects, but I always say that my chosen home is Croatia at the moment. But in terms of association with the Bulgaria, I believe that it's just that version, that chapter of my life where I don't talk about that much, and maybe that's why I never said as much about my upbringing and what happened in my past life. But yeah, it is just I don't know, that time in Bulgaria, I would say it was very fun and it was very good as a learning path and opportunity, but it was mostly a struggle related life. So when I say I'm from Bulgaria, it's just like nothing much to say except lots of lessons and a lots of adventures like university years and whatnot. So yeah, I just say I'm from there, but I currently live here. This is how I transition the conversation from one country to another.
Nice. Where did you find your first freelance client?
Freelance client, first freelance client. I have to think about it because if you ask anybody else, they would say for them freelancing probably started since young age. So if we don't count labeled freelancing, I would say since young age when I started buying groceries for my neighbors. That would be my first freelance gig when I was doing physical services.
How old were you when you did that?
Very young. I don't know. I probably just started school, 7, 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
As soon as I was being able to have my own pocket money, I started to help out my neighbors. That would be also considered freelance gig, right? Just
Yeah.
doing services like this. But in terms of design work, I started first with NGO project for my friend that is doing dance classes, and she really wanted to create battles in for hip hop. And then I was like experimenting with the wigs at the time, and I was like, let me help you with the website, and you don't have to pay me anything. You can just, for example, I don't know, recommend me in the future or whatever. And this is the first freelance gig. I think officially I labeled it, this is my first freelance thing. But I would say much before, a long time ago, and lots of freelance gigs in terms of mostly selling something or doing some kind of services in terms of translating, interpretation. I did dream catchers when I was in university, handmade, and then I would sell them. So yeah, I don't know.
It sounds like you had a very entrepreneurial mindset from like since you went to school, like since you had pocket money. It's very interesting. Like I always wonder where this comes from. Is it something that children see and copy, or is it something they get from the parents? Do you feel like you know what it was like what the reason was for you?
I think the reason for me was like I really wanted to help somebody, and I really wanted to be appreciated. Honestly, that's the core value that it was for me. The whole thing, the motivation, doing something good, and it really made me feel good about myself and being helpful and seen, mostly seen, to be honest. And whenever I helped out other people, like the neighbors and whatever, they would be so nice. Like my my minimum reward would be them saying thank you, but they would go beyond by giving me something sweet, giving me extra money for school, or inviting me for lunch without asking for anything. And I'll be like, man, this is wonderful. This is wonderful. And I just kept doing it. And yeah, I think the appreciation was my driver and it still is.
It's quite interesting what you said, that you're the middle child, because I saw this documentary where they
Mm-hmm.
looked into family structures, especially like siblings, and they took families where there are 3 children, so older child, middle child, younger child, and the oldest one would most often become like CEO or some high leading role, like managing people, like controlling things, making decisions, fighting for other people to move forward. Because as the older child, you have to fight for your rights. Like my oldest sister would be like, Dad, I don't want to go to bed at 9. I want to be able to go to bed at 10. And she had to make a whole case why she should be allowed to go to bed at 10, etc. And then once I would reach her age, I would automatically, because my sister paved that way for me, be allowed to go to bed at 10 instead of 9. I didn't have to discuss it. I just did it, you know? And the middle child is often the one that tries to keep peace. So they end up in roles like being a nurse. So they're helping, you know, and they're communicating between different sections. And the young ones,
Diplomat.
yeah, exactly. And the young ones would end up in these kind of roles that want freedom, where they can do what they want. They wouldn't think so much about others because they never had to think about them, because the others would create stuff so that the young one can just be free. And also, if you think of it, at the third child, the parents are no longer that controlling. They don't care so much if they have a child that becomes a lawyer because one of the first ones already did that. Or they don't care so much if the young one plays with a plug and a socket and a fork because they managed to keep 2 children alive already. So probably the third one will survive too. So they never had to like, like, of course they would interfere, you know, but like it has more freedom. So they would become things like professional skydivers. So it's very interesting that it kind of fits in this thing that you want to be seen, because it's also often that neglected middle child that doesn't get the attention, and all you wanted was just a thank you. So yeah, I find that very interesting.
Yes, I just wanted to add to peacemakers, like being the diplomats of the family, trying to make everything work, being not so loud and quiet. I mean, growing up, later we become, I don't know, stand-up comedians. We develop different coping mechanisms and whatnot. But yeah, I think it's pretty accurate.
It's interesting. There's always a reason for why we're doing what we're doing, and that's what I find so interesting with freelancers, because I agree also, like what you said, with this win-win situation for everyone rather than we are competition. I noticed that many freelancers are so open to collaborate because they don't just see other, like in our case, technically we could work on the same project. I don't see you as competition. I would be like, oh, if I'm booked and I can't take on this client, I can refer you. Or actually, if you want someone who also codes that website, not just designs it, I would say Nikoleta is good at this. Like it's going to be a no-code thing, etc., etc. So there are ways where we can collaborate. I think there's enough work out there that we can share it, you know, and it doesn't have to be one person who gets everything. There's enough for everyone. What would you say is your biggest challenge right now as a freelancer?
My biggest challenge, to take things slow, maybe to not put that much pressure on myself, like I'm running late or something. That maybe is number one, so I don't get into the hustle mindset that I had in the beginning, that I have to do much more than I'm actually doing. So being present and doing things in my own pace and doing it intentionally and also with a meaning behind it. So I don't just do for the sake of doing, but actually doing things that bring me progress in the long term. And I think the other thing that my biggest struggle would be finding the right clients, the ones that are having similar communication style, that are really passionate about their work. And I really enjoy one-on-one, but also recently with working with a startup, I really enjoy that fast pace, also decision making and turning things around whenever something new comes up. And I think trying to find maybe 1 or 2 clients a month that have like either one-on-one or a startup setup where we can work together. I think making the balance between this kind of projects, it's now the tricky part, but I think in future it will get easier and easier. And today you post about finding a client, not clients.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, she's so right. I'm gonna focus on finding a client, not clients. And this really also brought me back to the intentionality behind everyday actions. And since I started gaming recently on my personal side of things as a de-stressing, decompressing, I was like, yeah, today is just another challenge in the game, and I have to just reach certain XP, unlock a couple treasure chests, and explore and see what is out there. Nothing to be scared of, nothing to be afraid of. Everything will be okay. I just have to do the best I can today. That's it.
I think that's a good way to, like what you say, it's just one step after the other. If we look at the whole mountain of stuff we need to do, and I now call my to-do list Kilimanjaro because
Mm.
it's just so much to climb, but just look at the next step. What is the next step that brings me a little bit closer to the top? And if you just think about that thing, it's like the next 24 hours in the calendar.
Yeah, yeah.
Put it into small chunks, and then it becomes so much easier to achieve. Even
Mhm.
if you put it as tiny, when you think of Jira and like doing sprints and how do you do like the ticket system for the developers, instead of putting the whole website as one ticket, you can say design the button. That's all. Today we just look
Mhm.
at how we design the
Mhm.
button, and then we build on that. And
Exactly.
yeah, it just makes it so much easier. Like looking back now, what would you say was your biggest challenge when you started freelancing?
Oof. Um, I don't know. I have to think about it. When I started maybe meeting the community, meeting the right people, I guess. um, like figuring out that aspect of the freelancing, like how not to be lonely as a freelancer. I think I didn't even know that it was a problem until I started. And then I figured out, okay, I need someone to talk to. I need people to hang out with that are in the same kind of headspace, know what they're doing, or they're doing something different, but at least they know the struggle. I think that was a struggle that I didn't know that even existed, but also mentorship, I would say, but not in terms of like, this is what you have to do, but mentorship in terms of someone telling me, you don't have to do it all now. You don't have to do everything at once. You don't have to publish your portfolio perfect. You don't have to create everything in 1 month. Take it easy, break things down into steps. First, create this profile, then market yourself locally, then start a LinkedIn. Someone to break it down for me and be like, chill, take a chill pill. Because in the beginning, it was like no code, freelancing, UX, learning all the terms, everything at once. And I was like, consuming so much content. I had another Instagram account and everything was like tips, 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 tips. And I was like, oh my God, what's happening? And I was like, okay, I'm going to delete that account and I'm going to start new. And I'm going to focus on the things that I really am passionate about and I believe that will bring value into the world. I know what everybody else is doing is fine, but it's not what I want to do. For example, most UX designers are teaching other junior designers how to become freelance designers. I'm not good at that. I mean, I could do it, but this is not my thing. I don't want to create a whole branding around that because for me, that's not my goal. That's not my thing to do at the moment. Maybe when I get more experience or I have more like how to say documentation on the freelancing journey, then maybe or blueprint, like you say, then maybe I can mentor and say, this is how you do it, this is what you should do. But I would rather focus on building business relationships, collaborations with my peers or with the clients, learn more about different businesses. So, yeah, figuring out what I want to do, maybe that, and finding my network. That these two things were the struggles that I was like trying to figure out in the beginning.
I think it's very interesting because even though I've been now freelancing for 5 years, this what do I actually want to do and what do I focus on? I've been in that situation
Yeah.
recently. And okay, I'm very confident with my UX work. I no longer feel challenged as much as I did at the beginning. I need a
Mhm.
new challenge. And I don't want to kind of lose the experience I have as a UX designer. I want to build on that. But also, I don't want to teach people how to do UX. Like I can. I love mentoring. I really enjoyed it one on one,
Mhm.
but it's very
Mm.
different to do it on a big scale UX course because then it's like, okay, you create this website, but then it's just not the same as when you work on an actual product, because it's not the same specific problems that you come across. And yeah, I needed a challenge after UX, and I thought, okay, I want to build a personal brand,
Mhm.
because I haven't really figured out what I want to
Mhm.
do, but either way, having a personal brand will help. And then I was starting a newsletter. I started to post content on Instagram. I started launching my first course. I started coaching. I started this podcast, and I noticed everything is progressing, but very, very slowly, because I didn't give it my full focus. And then I was on this coaching call, and it was with Annelie Hansen. There were like other people there, and she was saying, concentrate on one thing. Just concentrate on one thing. What do you enjoy more? Do you enjoy the teaching part? Do you enjoy this part? And it resonated so much, because it's true. Like, we can't do like we can, but we're gonna burn out, and then nothing is gonna really progress.
Yes.
So now, this and next week, I'm just gonna record all the episodes, and then the next week I'm gonna edit everything.
Mhm.
So this is my focus now. And then after that, maybe I'll look back into content and this, that. So it's it's good to have someone that just tells you to focus on one thing. And it's good to have a
Yeah.
mentor. It's good to have someone who has done it before, who tells you this is what you should
Mhm.
be doing next. And it took me, I think, 4 years as a freelancer before I started hiring a coach.
Mhm.
And now that I had a coach,
Mhm.
I'm so addicted. Like, as soon as I'm done with one, okay, what's the next thing I want to work on? Who's a good coach for that? Because it just, you save so much time. Like, even now, yeah, we were talking about the finance course I'm doing, or workshop or program, whatever you want to call it. And there is this one guy from the first cohort who told me, oh, I now made £3,000 because of what you told me. And it's like, I wish I had that when I started. It took me 4 or 5 fucking years,
Yeah.
And if I would have known that when I started, the amount of money I would have saved. And it's so important to invest in a
Yeah.
mentor and in a coach. Do you have a coach at the moment, or a mentor?
No, no, I don't have a coach or a mentor, but I really do appreciate others' output, and I think for me it's much more valuable to have like this kind of peer connection. Like for example, with my co-host Kat, we have this coffee chat sometimes, and we just lay down everything that is on our chest, or just brainstorm ideas. Or with my friends that are also like working remotely, we are walking and talking. We really like this kind of dynamic where we just walk and talk and lay out ideas and mentor each other and give each other advice. And for example, giving ideas on how to overcome work obstacle or life change at the moment. The fact that we are so curious and we want to do so many things, and like you said, you wanted to be challenged, and I also wanted to be challenged. And last year I accepted a gig for the summer to be a teacher, like English teacher for kids. And once I had the taste of teaching, I was like, okay, this is my new side hustle. And now, if you didn't know, I dedicate like 3-4 hours a week to teaching people English, to practice their English speaking skills. And from them, I feed my curiosity, I learn from them, I get that seen recognition
Mm-hmm.
feeling. I feel much more inspired to do my other work. And when they say, oh my God, thank you so much. Because of this, I managed to, I don't know, write a letter or talk to my friends in English without stuttering or something like that. It really brings me that fulfillment that I was telling you about in the beginning, when growing up and doing things for other people and helping them out. So, yeah, I think with the freedom and the freelancing, it comes this feeling that you want to do more and you end up doing more. But working and growing also means that you have to make sure that you put some kind of boundaries as well of how much you can do actually and how much you can focus on. And the doing different things in different period of times also can be also related to, I think, seasonal, like having a different season for different things. For example, during the winter you can record a podcast, but during the summer you can be more like, I don't know, doing in real life interviews or doing more freelance work. It's just like what kind of season you are in and how do you feel about different things. Also, if you believe in spirituality and moon cycles, there is like 1 week where you can focus only on letting go, and there's another week where you can focus on only pursuing and attracting things. So it really depends on how you feel mentally.
Yeah. And it's also the beauty of freelancing. You have the freedom to choose what you want to do. I have the freedom to say, okay, this week I'm not taking on client work. I'm just recording podcasts, and I would not be able to do that in my permanent job. I would have to way in advance ask, is it possible to have a break and this, that? Whereas now I can still pay myself from my business, even though I'm not technically making an income for the podcast. And I don't have to worry about, am I going to pay my bills if I have a break here and stuff. So it's like we said, it's the freedom. And also what you mentioned with the teaching, I think once you gain a little taste of, like, get a little taste of that, it's just so rewarding. I love when someone has this like, this makes sense, and you help them get there, like it's such a beautiful thing. And this is why I like making content. And the sad thing is you don't actually see them having that aha moment. Even if they comment after or something, it's not the same as when you coach or you teach. It's a different thing. And the other thing that you mentioned with the loneliness, I had the same thing when I started. And I think it's when you don't have the surrounding of entrepreneurship around you, when everyone you know has a 9-to-5 job, and then you start freelancing and you don't know any other freelancers. So you don't know about things that people that have their own business know, like, oh yes, you can expense this coffee, you can, yes, the laptop you bought, you can put this on your business so you pay less tax. These are conversations you don't have with people that work 9-to-5, because it's not something that's important to them. And similar to what you have with Kat, I connected with some people on Instagram that I've been following since I started doing this online presence thing. And we sometimes just jump on some phone calls. Actually, I should invite you to those too. And it's not common. It's like every, I don't know, 2-3 months or something. And I was thinking of, it would be nice to have like a Slack channel so that when people can go like, oh, I'm working on this, can someone hold me accountable that I finish this email by then or something, It's just, it would just be a nice thing to do that. So I'm going to start a Discord channel. I'm not sure if it's going to be Telegram or Slack or Discord, whatever. But
I voted for Discord.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of people actually said, I need to check. I haven't checked that post yet. But when I was just talking to people, they all said Discord is quite easy. So yeah, I will probably do that. Quick interruption. So since having this conversation with Nikoleta, I finally made the decision of where I'm going to host the community. It's going to be a Discord channel. The goal of the Freelance Blueprint Discord channel is going to be to connect other like-minded freelancers who are also creating content and help each other out, learn from one another and give each other tips, and also hold each other accountable. If you're interested in being part of the community, and yes, it's going to be free to join, I'll add the link into the description of this podcast. So hit pause, sign up, and then let's continue with the episode. How did you actually find Kat?
I don't know. The magic of Instagram, I guess, because I think we were like, I still had my old account, and her and Mauro. Mauro is also a freelance designer. He does like e-commerce and UX as well. I made them in the same time when I had my previous Instagram account, and somehow maybe he liked something of hers or the other way around, and I connected with them. And then they had this relatability, but also fresh outlook on things, and I really liked their content. And then I started to chat with them in the DMs, and it just became like one of those connections that you meet the person through just a couple of sentences. You're like, oh, we click. I mean, we know each other. Basically, I don't know how, but we kind of speak the same language. So it was that kind of thing. And I really don't know how it happened, which post it was, or the origin of the story is mystery.
Nice. And how did you come about the idea of starting your podcast together?
Well, the coffee chats. I invited her, I think, on a coffee chat, and I was like, let's talk, let's have an actual call. And she told me about a little bit about herself, and then we started talking about work and life and everything, but it always was surrounded about freelancing. And then I was like, one day, I have an idea about a podcast. I want to interview people, but I'm not sure where to do it, how to do it. And then also it started to become more popular in our surroundings. And she was like, you know what? I also wanted to do a podcast. And I'm like, we were together basically almost like in synchron. Let's do it together. And I was like, yeah.
Amazing. How long have you
So
been doing the podcast now?
I think we pre-recorded a couple of episodes just to test out how good we have the chemistry on camera. And we did probably 6 episodes that we didn't release, and we had a practice round. So maybe 1 year and a half, but officially we launched last, I think, July or something like that. So not even a year.
Wow. And how is it going?
It's going well. It's going slowly, but it's work in progress, like the name of the podcast. So we just decided that we're gonna make it as an outlet to meet other people and just have that creative freedom to talk with other people or on a topics that we already would talk on a coffee chats, but just make it public.
I don't remember how I came across your account. I don't know if it was you first or Kat first, but then I noticed there was the podcast, and that's how I came across the other person. I think it was when I started doing my podcast. Maybe I came across it through some Instagram hashtags or something. I don't remember anyway. And I was just, okay, this sounds like it's someone who is not, the diary of a CEO. I don't want to compare myself to that level. So I'm just going to listen to a few podcasts that are kind of talking about similar topics to similar people. And then I listen to your conversations, and it's like, it resonates so much. And it's so interesting what you're talking about. It's like, I've been in exactly that same situation. It was so useful, and it motivated me so much to really pursue this podcast, because it's like, yeah, you're in the same shoes. You're just having this conversation. You don't know if anyone is going to listen or whatever, but you still put it out there. And I came across it, and I loved listening to it. And it was also like, these are such cute little like conversations and people that I want to connect with. And I'm so glad that now we're on this podcast together.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's actually quite funny how it goes in circles, so
I didn't know that you found us through the podcast, actually. I didn't know that. I thought you met first Kat and then met me or something like that. But if you say that it was a podcast, then wow.
I don't remember. I don't know if I came across your accounts and through your accounts to the podcast, or the other way around. It's like this mystery, like you mentioned when you met Kat and Mara, but somehow you just come across those things, and it doesn't matter how. The fact is, it happened, and I'm glad it happened. Yeah, and that's, again, coming back to the whole peer thing, the shoulder on shoulder. It's like, yeah, you have a podcast, I have a podcast, but people can listen to both. It's not like, oh, if I come on your podcast, I'm not going to steal your listeners. You're not going to steal my listeners. Actually, we will add on to it. And also the reason why I started a podcast was for the same reasons as you, having an excuse to be able to talk for an hour to people that you would not normally get to talk to. And I'm still so surprised the amount of guests, like the people that are willing to give their time freely to be on a podcast, that if you just message them on LinkedIn, do you want to be on a podcast? They would probably just ghost you. Whereas, like, look at this. This is so nice. If you were to start again today, would you still do it? And if so, how?
100% yes. And I would probably listen to my intuition and that spark in me and focus on one spark at a time. So I would not delay the podcast that much. I would just straight up start recording, like messy, imperfect, like just start. I would start exactly the moment I have the idea of creating that thing, being freelancing project or podcasting or content, blog post, newsletter. I would just not postpone as much as I do and I did before. So I would think I would just listen more to my inner voice and just focus on one thing at a time, but definitely would do it again.
Nice. Thank you so much for joining today. I'm so glad you took the time. And there are 3 questions that I ask at the end of every conversation. And one of the questions is, would you ever go back to a permanent job?
As a partner, yes, I would love to be on a permanent job and have that stability and structure and maybe work in a agency or something like that, but more like a partner and have like a round table. I'm actually reading a book about a girl that is working in a design agency, and I would love to have like this kind of also like experience, but mostly as a partner or part of a really equal team, but not as an employee for sure.
Would you build your own agency?
Right now, I don't have that kind of ambition because I know it is a lot of responsibility, a lot of hard work, and I think I'm not that money driven, unfortunately. So if I wanted to be accumulating some kind of numbers and to be like 30 under 30, which is not possible in the years I am, I don't think. I think I would if I had this ambition in me, but I'm just not built that way at the moment, and I don't think so. I don't think so.
I don't think it's unfortunately that you don't have this money drive. I actually think it's a healthy
Mm,
thing, because so many people just follow money and they neglect all the other
mm,
things. Because if you follow one thing, you can't follow the others, and it's actually a good mindset that you have
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So if you could go back in time to, let's say, maybe to the time when you moved to Croatia and you weren't sure about how you found your first client and how to start and things like that, what would you today tell your past version?
Google local institutions that help businesses start businesses, because this is how everything went for me. Somehow I came across because I speak Croatian and I understand Croatian like 99% of the time. I found, and I read books in Croatian, and whatever, the language is not foreign to me. I was like Googling, okay, taxes, how to open a business, how to do it legally, like in the country that I am, like as a European. And then this organization called Plavi Ured, which is like the Blue Office, it ended up to be like non-profit organization where people can go on courses and educate themselves on how to open an entity, how to be a freelancer, how to do their taxes, how to uh, just make a better business, like in terms of communication, sales, product, UX design. There were so many topics, and I attended probably 10 or 12 courses of those. And it's such a good incubator of community where people exchange ideas, introduce themselves, and you learn through their stories and their mistakes and also their dreams about what you really want to do. So I'll definitely tell my younger self, like few years ago, uh, Google and seek people that are on the same path, but maybe one level ahead of you. Ask around those that are already playing the game, right? Asks for instructions. Don't be afraid to look at the cheat sheet. Don't try to start everything from scratch, from zero, without knowing anything about anything. Ask. I would just advise myself to ask like sooner.
Yeah, that's a good tip. And also what you said with Googling stuff, there's often some sort of support. Like, for example, my friend in Austria, she wanted to start her own business, and that's another high privilege of when you're European. There is a way in Austria that if you want to run your own business, the
Mm-hmm.
government pays you, I think, up to 60% or 80% of your previous salary for 6 months. And those 6 months, you concentrate on running your business. So you still have an income, and then you can go 100% on
Yeah,
that, not having to worry how you pay your bills. And that's just
yeah, I
mad
did
that,
that.
yeah, see, I didn't even know that existed. I did it the hard way, moved to
Yeah,
London, and then started freelancing, not sure how I'm going to get money tomorrow,
yeah.
So there are things like that, and some people are not aware of it.
Exactly. And this is the full circle moment with the high school, because I finished a high school for entrepreneurship and business and economics and entrepreneurship. And we had to do business plans. And for this grant, to take the grant of 10,000 euros, I had to write a business plan and check with myself what are my motivations, who are my clients, what kind of services I'm going to offer. And this was the perfect round moment where I was like, okay, this is all my like business on paper, and I wrote it in Croatian. My friend just checked for typos. I sent it. I got it from the first time as a non-Croatian, and I was like, now I can do
Congrats.
anything. Thank you.
Congratulations. Nice. I
Yeah.
remember we talked about it, and I think you said you wanted to get some equipment from it and stuff. So did you already order? Nice.
Yes, here it is.
Oh,
Mic,
oh,
laptop, everything.
perfect. Nice. So the last question is, if you could fast forward, let's say 5 years from now,
imagine where your business would be, imagine who you would be as a person, maybe where your podcast is, maybe you were speaking on stage somewhere, or like wherever you might be. What do you think your future self would tell you today?
Damn girl, I'm proud of you. I think that's what she would say, and she would probably say like something like, "I'm really happy that you keep building your character and choosing to be a hero rather than a victim." And yeah, maybe I do this since university years. I hug myself sometimes in the morning when I need it, and I give myself a kiss on my shoulder, and I'm like, "You will do good today. It will be fine." So I think she will do something similar.
Oh, that's so cute. That's a nice, like, it's good. I actually think people don't hug enough, but you're right. Like, it's also good to just hug yourself. So I wish this would
Yeah,
be in the
yeah,
real, like, not just on Zoom, because then I would like to give you a proper hug.
yeah.
Oh,
Right, you're right.
no. Well, thank you so much for coming on the
One
podcast.
day.
Oh, yes, definitely. I think, where did you say you want to go? Korea? You wanted to do like a Korea trip?
Food tour to Korea, Japan, just for the design and the craziness of the aesthetics that they have. Yeah, for sure. Soon it will happen.
Well, tell me when you're there. I'm going to meet you there. Or maybe I come to Croatia. We will make it happen.
Oh, okay. Okay. Pinky promise.
Thank you so much for your time. If any of the listeners want to learn more about you, where can they find you?
Well, I'm basically almost everywhere, but most of the time I spend on Instagram with my surname Angelova Nikoleta Design, which makes and most of the time also I try to dedicate to LinkedIn and try to find new collaborations through LinkedIn as well. I'm also having my own newsletter, so I try to build also this kind of community around the newsletter and my stories. I write on Medium, and yeah, basically Instagram, LinkedIn, and Medium for now.
Perfect. I'll link all of that in the show notes, and I'll link your newsletter as well, because it's very cute. And
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again. Thank you so much for coming, and have a good day.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, you too.
Bye.
This was one of the most varied conversations I've had on this podcast, but don't tell the other podcast guests. It was a simple, nice, cozy conversation, and I feel like I've just had a nice, lovely hug, and I really hope this transferred over to you. I'm adding all the links so you can follow Nikoleta in the description of this podcast, and also make sure to join the Discord channel. If you liked this episode, please leave a review. It really helps get the Freelance Blueprint to more listeners out there. That's all from me, and I can't wait to have you join again next week.